All right, with that said, let's finally get into this deep dive. Here's what happens. Missouri goes into Athens, takes an L to the forehead, 21-30. But, Mizzou's good. Mizzou's really good. Anyone who is looking at Mizzou and is rating them based off of who they are as a brand and a logo, you're making a mistake. That game was much closer than 30-21. Mizzou's good.
I agree with you. It was closer than 30-21. They lost every battle within this game. Turnovers, times of possession, you name it. They lost the big battles in that way. I don't know that Luther Burden was the same after his incident in the end zone with the kind of awkward few minutes of they wanted to look at him. He didn't want to be looked at.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they've done for sure, and that continued on Saturday, is they've played close games with almost anyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, their biggest wins of the year: 35-10 over South Dakota, 38-21 over Vandy, 38-21 over Kentucky, and I think that's still one of their more impressive wins on the year because they got in the 14-0 hole.
Yeah.
But they play close games with everybody. They're capable, I think, of playing with anyone. And that means in a good or a bad way, keeping it close to someone that they're better than, or playing up to better competition, such as Georgia. Because when you look at the dudes still, they've got a great or a good to a great, certainly above average, 2/3 of a team, I think. They are not 85 deep like Georgia is 85 deep.
Oh,
they have no business being in a 9-point game at Athens, covering the spread that we talked about when we previewed this game, getting some of the stops and really limiting Georgia to field goals in ways that we've not seen many teams not named Auburn do. And the early season when Carson Beck is still figuring a lot of things out, playing well while doing it. They did a lot of new things, that we've not really seen against Georgia. And again, limiting Georgia in some scenarios, being what I'm talking about there. Still just don't know how good they are. And I don't know that we'll find out this year how good really Missouri is because of the way that they've played to competition in some other scenarios.
Well, listen, if you go into this game and you say, listen, Missouri's going to outrush Georgia, which they did, 151-131, and they're going to pass for 30-ish less yards, 212-254. I'm probably going to take Mizzou in that pick. Your difference are 2 picks by Brady Cook, right? One which was atrocious, what looked like a slip screen, throwing it right to the down lineman, almost giving him a chance to return it. I mean, that's your ball game. That's what it came down to. Yep. Not necessarily that play, but those things that I just mentioned there. Mizzou, they now scare the crap out of me.
I'm not there with you yet. Tennessee's more than capable of losing the game, but I'm not terrified of Missouri.
They strike me as the Utah of the SEC.
Absolutely, I can't go that far. Just me. Okay. Again, they're more than capable of beating Tennessee, and I think. And again, I'm not taking shots when I say this, but Tennessee's more than capable of allowing Missouri to beat them.
Yeah.
But I think that the strengths are equal between the teams, or they're even within the teams to an extent.
That's fair.
Missouri is so much more one receiver than they are spreading it around, and Tennessee does not have that guy. They don't have that guy on offense because you see them try to go to Squirrel White, and they go to Squirrel White a lot more than anybody else, but they don't have that guy that they've had before looking at you, Jalen Hyatt, like Missouri has Luther Burden. And he's going to get his if he's healthy after Saturday. It's another small success for Tennessee that they get Missouri coming off of such a physical game on the road in Georgia. And then I think there's the aspect as well where Tennessee's got a little bit more SEC noise, to play for. Missouri now needs a little bit more than Tennessee would need to ever get to Atlanta. It's not going to happen because Georgia's going to smack Ole Miss into oblivion for either team. But there are factors there that keep me from saying they're the Utah of the SEC.
Well, my argument to your whole receiving core thing is Burden wasn't even your leading receiver Saturday.
Yeah, and I was sitting here kind of trashing those guys, saying that they basically can't do it if it's not Luther. I did say that, but how successful is it going to be to throw back shoulder fades on 3rd and 11 or 12. That's what they were doing with Theo Weiss there to keep the game going. Credit to them for that. Georgia's, and I'm not saying anybody compares to them still, but they're not the same defense. They're certainly not the same secondary or interior defensive line that they've been, because I just think if you take these two teams last year, we saw it. Georgia got played closer by Missouri than anybody else. Give Georgia one or two of those. Give them Jalen Carter, anybody there in the middle, and I think this is a 30-14 or a 10 game at that point.
Sure. Well, my argument to that is Georgia's corners and secondary are head and shoulders above ours. I mean, and we're going to be missing Kamal Haddon, who's been at times a liability. So I just think they're better than their record. They now concern me. All right, so they're going to finish their season hosting us. 3:30 CBS kickoff comes Saturday. Host Florida. Who's Florida? They're going to be fighting for bowl eligibility, and then traveling to Arkansas. Arkansas, hopefully, still playing for bowl eligibility. Georgia Tech's going to finish things out a little differently. Hosting Ole Miss, as you mentioned, comes Saturday. Georgia currently 10.5-point favorites. Traveling to Knoxville, 3:30 CBS kickoff, more than likely.
Joy.
I think that's already been announced. Correction. And then traveling to rejuvenated Georgia Tech.
Man, I don't care what anybody says. That's your coach of the year right there in Atlanta for me this year.
Brent Key,
dude. Yeah. What on earth?
Yeah.
The bounce back, man. The Yellow Jacket bounce back. And look, if Saban were to take this team really deep or to a title, or if Kirby is the three-peat, it's going to be hard to argue against. But what a job by the Yellow Jackets, man. I can't believe what I'm seeing out of them.
For sure. Again, Missouri travels to Athens, takes an L to the forehead, 21-30.
Pandemonium reigns.